The alarms tore through the station before I even opened my eyes. Red light spun across my chamber walls, and the floor shook so hard that a glass vase fell and shattered near my feet. I did not need anyone to tell me what that sound meant. The Threll fleet had found us. My name is Alina Vasari, third daughter of the Shinari Dominion, and in that first moment of chaos, I was not thinking about my crown or my bloodline. I was thinking about the one person on this station I had spent months insulting, ignoring, and doubting, because some instinct deep inside me already knew he would be the only one still standing in the corridor outside my door. His name was Ethan Carter, a human soldier, assigned to guard me by an Alliance council that thought pairing an alien princess with a young Earth soldier was some kind of diplomatic gesture. I hated the idea from the start. My people had guarded royalty for 1,000 generations. Humans had barely stepped beyond their own solar system. When Ethan first stood before me, calm and steady, I told him plainly that I expected him to fail. He only said, quiet and certain, that he had never failed anyone who needed him yet. I did not believe him, not then. Now, with the station groaning under enemy fire, I threw open my door and found him already there, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the hallway like he had been awake and ready for hours. Around him, my own royal guards were nowhere to be seen. I called their names into my comm, but only static answered. Ethan did not wait for explanations. He grabbed my arm, pulled me low beneath a shower of sparking wires, and moved forward like he already knew every turn of this station better than I did. Behind us, the hallway split apart in a wave of heat and light, throwing us both to the ground. My ears rang, and for a moment I could see nothing but smoke curling toward the shattered ceiling. When my vision cleared, Ethan was already lifting me up, checking my arms and shoulders with quick, practiced hands, making sure nothing was broken before he even checked himself. "Your guards left," he said. I heard it over the comm channel before the alarms even started. "They took the North Shuttle Bay 10 minutes ago." I could not answer him. My chest was tight, not from the smoke, but from the sudden, cold understanding that everyone sworn to protect me since my birth had simply vanished the moment danger became real. Ethan did not comment on it further. He simply led me forward, checking every corner before I stepped into it, moving with a calmness that felt strange against the panic clawing through my own thoughts. We reached the lower transport deck, only to find it collapsed, a wall of twisted metal blocking the path to the escape pods. Ethan studied it for only a few seconds before turning us toward a maintenance shaft instead, one I did not even know existed. When I asked how he knew about it, he said he had studied the station blueprints every night since his assignment began, in case something exactly like this happened. I had mocked him for spending his evenings alone with old files instead of attending royal banquets. Now that quiet habit was the only reason we had a way out at all. The shaft was narrow and hot, filled with the distant echo of explosions rippling through the station's outer hull. Ethan climbed first, then reached back for my hand at every gap, never once complaining about the weight of his gear or the sweat soaking through his uniform. When a support beam gave way above us, he threw himself between it and me without a single word of hesitation, taking the impact across his shoulder so it would not land on mine. I asked him why. My voice came out sharper than I intended, still shaped by old suspicion. Why protect someone who has done nothing but doubt you since the day you arrived? He looked at me for a long moment, breathing hard, blood staining the edge of his sleeve. "Because that is the job," he said, "and because some things do not need a reason beyond deciding to do them." I did not understand him, not fully, but something in his voice made the question feel smaller than it had a moment before. We reached the docking ring just as another wave of enemy ships tore across the outer viewport, their weapons lighting the black sky in long streaks of orange. The last working shuttle sat at the far end of the corridor, powered and waiting, but the path to it ran straight through an open section exposed to the fighting outside. Ethan checked the corridor twice, then told me to stay low and move only when he moved. I did exactly that, my legs shaking with every step, my mind flooded with images of my own guards abandoning their post without a second thought, contrasted against this one soldier who had never once looked away from the danger in front of him. Halfway across, a support strut collapsed ahead of us, cutting off the direct path to the shuttle. Ethan pulled me sideways into a side corridor instead, calm even as the entire station rocked beneath our feet. He found another route within seconds, as if he had already memorized every possible failure point and prepared a solution for each one. When we finally reached the shuttle, he practically threw me into the pilot seat before dropping into the one beside me, already flipping switches with fast, sure hands. The engines roared to life just as another explosion rippled through the corridor we had left only moments before. We cleared the docking bay as debris scattered around us, the shuttle shaking under the force of the shockwave. I gripped the edge of my seat, watching the station shrink behind us, watching the very halls where I had grown up crumble into fire and silence. Ethan guided the shuttle through the debris field with careful, steady movements, dodging fragments of metal that spun past the viewport like deadly stars. I realized, watching him work, that this was not luck. This was preparation. This was someone who had trained for exactly this moment, long before it ever arrived. Once we broke free of the debris, and the open stars stretched calm and endless ahead of us, the tension in my shoulders finally began to ease. I looked over at Ethan, his jaw tight with focus, his hands steady despite the blood still marking his sleeve. I asked him again, quieter this time, why he stayed. He kept his eyes on the controls as he answered, because loyalty that only shows up when it is convenient is not loyalty at all. Anyone can promise to protect someone. Staying, when leaving would be easier, that is the only promise that actually means anything. I sat with those words for a long moment, watching the stars drift past the viewport. My entire life, I had been taught that loyalty came from bloodlines, from oaths sworn generations ago, from titles and duties passed down like inherited furniture. I had never once considered that loyalty might instead be something a person simply chooses, again and again, in the moments when choosing costs the most. We flew in silence for a while, the adrenaline slowly fading from my body, leaving behind a strange, hollow ache. Somewhere behind us, the station that had been my home my entire life was now little more than drifting wreckage among the stars. Ethan finally spoke again, his voice softer now that the danger had passed. He told me the Alliance Council would likely reassign him once we reached a safe outpost, that a soldier's duty rarely stayed fixed to one person for long. I felt something tighten in my chest at those words, sharper than I expected. I told him, plainly, that I did not want another guard. I told him that after tonight, I did not think I could trust anyone else to stand where he had stood. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time since we had met, I saw something other than calm duty in his expression. I saw the same quiet certainty I had heard in his voice the very first day, when he told me he had never failed anyone who needed him yet. He said he would speak with the council himself, that some assignments were worth fighting to keep. I allowed myself, for the first time since the alarms had torn through my chamber, to breathe fully, to let the fear settle into something calmer. Outside the viewport, a new star system came into view, quiet and untouched by the war still raging behind us. It was not home. It would never replace what we had lost tonight, but it was safety, at least for now, and it was shared with the one person who had proven, without a single word wasted on empty promises, exactly what real loyalty looked like. I had spent months believing that a human soldier could never understand the weight of guarding royalty, that his species was too young, too simple, too far beneath the ancient duties of my own people. Tonight, every one of those beliefs had burned away along with the station behind us. Ethan Carter had not stayed because tradition demanded it, or because a title required it, or because centuries of inherited oath bound him to my side. He had stayed because he chose to, in the one moment when choosing meant everything, when every easier option stood wide open in front of him, and he walked past all of them anyway. As the shuttle carried us toward the quiet system ahead, I found myself no longer thinking of him as simply my guard. I found myself thinking, instead, of everything that word loyalty had truly meant tonight, and of the one person who had shown me, without hesitation, exactly what it looked like when someone decided to stay.